Nora Hayes had been doing food delivery in Las Vegas for 8 months, and she'd learned to navigate the city efficiently. At 26, she knew which restaurants were fast, which neighborhoods tipped well, which casino hotels had the easiest parking. Friday nights were her busiest, and she needed every dollar she could make. The money she sent home to Idaho every month kept the lights on in her parents' trailer and helped pay for her father's medications. Tonight, she wore black leggings, a gray hoodie against the October chill, and comfortable sneakers that had seen better days. Her light brown hair was pulled back in a ponytail, and her delivery bag was strapped securely to her back as she pulled up on her electric scooter outside Stella Rossa, an upscale Italian restaurant in downtown Vegas. The order was straightforward: pick up food for a customer 3 blocks away. In and out, 5-minute job, decent tip promised in the app. Nora parked her scooter, grabbed her phone to confirm the order details, and started walking toward the restaurant's entrance. A man stood outside smoking, and even from 20 feet away, she could tell he was the kind of person who commanded attention. Tall, maybe 6'2", with broad shoulders that filled out his expensive-looking suit. Dark hair styled perfectly, strong jaw shadowed with stubble, and an air of authority that made her instinctively straighten her posture. She was maybe 10 feet from the entrance when she realized she'd forgotten to lock her scooter. Stupid. This neighborhood was safe, but Vegas was Vegas. She turned back, taking 3 quick steps toward where she'd parked. The world exploded. A sharp crack split the air. Something hot and devastating tore through Nora's left shoulder, spinning her sideways. She didn't understand what was happening, only that sudden, blinding pain consumed her entire left side. Her legs gave out. The pavement rushed up to meet her. Strong hands caught her before she hit the ground. "Christo," a voice said above her, deep and rough with an accent she couldn't place through the pain. "Stay with me. Don't close your eyes." Nora tried to speak, but all that came out was a choked gasp. Blood, she realized dimly. There was blood spreading across her hoodie, warm and terrifying. She'd been shot. Someone had shot her. The man who'd caught her was the one from the entrance, and his green-gray eyes were intense as they locked onto hers. "You're okay," he said with absolute certainty, though Nora was pretty sure she was dying. "I've got you. You're safe." He lifted her effortlessly, cradling her against his chest as he strode toward the restaurant's entrance. Nora caught a glimpse of his face, strong features tight with controlled fury, before everything started going hazy at the edges. "Marco!" the man shouted as he shouldered through the restaurant doors. "Get the car! Now! Everyone else out! Lock the doors, secure the perimeter." People were moving, scrambling. Nora heard chairs scraping, voices rising in panic. The man carrying her laid her down on what felt like a leather booth, his hands immediately pressing against her shoulder. The pressure sent white-hot agony through her, and she cried out. I know it hurts," he said, his voice gentler now. "But I need to stop the bleeding. Stay with me, Bella. What's your name?" "Nora," she gasped. "I don't understand. What happened? I was just—" "You were in the wrong place at the wrong time," the man said grimly. His hands never left her shoulder, maintaining steady pressure that hurt, but she understood was necessary. "Someone took a shot and you got hit, but you're going to be okay. I promise you that." A younger man appeared, mid-20s, with a medical bag. "Boss, ambulance." "No ambulance," the man holding Nora said sharply. "Get her to the car. We're taking her to Castellano." "But—" "Now, Marco." They moved her again, this time into the back of a black SUV that had pulled up to the restaurant's side entrance. The man climbed in beside her, keeping pressure on her wound, while the younger one drove. Nora's mind was spinning, trying to process what was happening through the pain and shock. "Who are you?" she managed to ask. The man's green eyes met hers, and something flickered in them. Guilt, maybe, or calculation. "My name is Adriano," he said, "and you just saved my life." "What?" "That bullet was meant for me," Adriano said quietly. "You turned around at the exact wrong moment, or the exact right moment, depending on how you look at it. If you hadn't moved, I'd be the one bleeding out right now." Nora stared at him, trying to make sense of his words. The bullet was for him? Why would someone shoot at a restaurant owner? Unless he wasn't just a restaurant owner. The expensive suit, the way his employee called him boss, the refusal to go to a hospital, it all clicked into place even through her pain-fogged brain. "You're a criminal," she whispered. Adriano's jaw tightened. "Right now, I'm the man keeping you alive. We can discuss the rest later. Save your energy." They pulled up to what looked like a private medical clinic, unmarked and discreet. Adriano carried Nora inside himself, refusing to let anyone else touch her. A gray-haired doctor met them, asking no questions about how she'd been injured, just immediately going to work. The next hour was a blur of pain, local anesthetic, the doctor extracting the bullet and stitching her shoulder. Through it all, Adriano stayed close, holding her hand when she squeezed it during the worst parts, murmuring reassurances in English and what she thought might be Italian. When it was done, the doctor gave Adriano instructions about wound care and pain management, handed over prescription bottles, and left them alone in the private recovery room. Nora looked down at her shoulder, now bandaged and throbbing with a duller ache than before. Her hoodie was gone, replaced with a hospital gown. Her mind felt clearer now, the initial shock wearing off, and reality was setting in. She'd been shot. She'd almost died. And this man, this stranger, who she was now absolutely certain was involved in organized crime, had saved her. "Thank you," she said quietly, "for helping me, for bringing me here." Adriano was sitting in a chair beside the bed, his expensive suit jacket discarded, his white shirt sleeves rolled up to reveal strong forearms. He looked tired suddenly, the adrenaline fading to reveal something raw underneath. "Don't thank me," he said roughly. "You took a bullet that was meant for me. If anything, I owe you everything." "I didn't do it on purpose," Nora pointed out. "I just turned around because I forgot to lock my scooter." "I know, which makes it even worse somehow." Adriano leaned forward, elbows on his knees, those intense eyes locked on hers. "The men who did this, they're my enemies. They were trying to send a message by killing me outside my own restaurant. Instead, they hurt an innocent woman who was just trying to do her job. That's unacceptable." "What are you going to do?" Nora asked, though part of her was afraid of the answer. "What I do best," Adriano said flatly. "Find them. Make sure they never threaten anyone I care about again." "You don't even know me," Nora said. "Why would you care about me?" Adriano was quiet for a long moment, studying her face. "You have beautiful eyes," he said finally, which wasn't an answer at all. "Blue-gray, like the ocean off Palermo where I'm from. I noticed them right before you fell." Heat crept into Nora's cheeks despite everything. "That's a strange thing to notice when someone's been shot." "I notice everything," Adriano said. "It's how I've survived this long in my world. And I noticed you, Nora. Even before the shooting, I saw you park your scooter, saw the way you moved with purpose, saw—" He stopped himself. "You should rest. The doctor said the bullet missed anything vital, but you lost blood. You need to recover." "I can't afford this," Nora said, panic suddenly hitting her. "The doctor, the treatment, the medications. I don't have insurance. I can barely afford rent. I can't—" "It's already taken care of," Adriano interrupted gently. "Everything is paid for. You won't receive a bill." "I can't accept that," Nora said, trying to sit up and immediately regretting it as pain lanced through her shoulder. "I don't even know you. I can't be in debt to—" "You're not in debt to me," Adriano said firmly, his hand on her uninjured shoulder easing her back down. This is my responsibility. You were hurt because of me, on my property, by people who want me dead. The least I can do is make sure you get the medical care you need. Please, Nora, let me do this." She wanted to argue more, but exhaustion was crashing over her like a wave. The pain medication was making her drowsy, and her body was demanding rest. "Okay," she whispered, "but just the medical stuff. I don't need anything else." "We'll see," Adriano said, and there was something in his tone that suggested he'd already decided she needed much more than that. Nora woke in an unfamiliar room, sunlight streaming through floor-to-ceiling windows that offered a view of the Las Vegas Strip she'd never seen from this angle. She was in a massive bed, her shoulder still aching but manageable. Someone had changed her into soft pajamas, and panic flared before she realized it must have been a nurse, not... "You're awake." Adriano's voice came from the doorway. "How do you feel?" Nora turned carefully, mindful of her injury. Adriano stood there in dark jeans and a gray Henley, looking somehow even more devastating in casual clothes than he had in the suit. His dark hair was slightly mussed, and she noticed for the first time the small imperfection in his nose, like it had been broken and not quite healed straight. "Where am I?" Nora asked. "My penthouse," Adriano said, moving into the room. He carried a tray with coffee, orange juice, and what looked like a gourmet breakfast. "The doctor recommended someone watch you for the first 24 hours after surgery. I didn't think you'd want to go to a hospital, and I assumed you don't live with anyone who could monitor you." He was right on both counts, and that annoyed her. "You can't just bring strange women to your penthouse without asking." "You're right. I should have asked first," Adriano said, setting the tray on the nightstand. "But you were unconscious, and I made a judgment call. If you want to leave, I'll take you home right now. But I'd feel better if you stayed here today at least. Let me make sure you're stable." Nora wanted to insist on leaving, wanted to maintain her independence and dignity. But the truth was, she lived in a tiny studio apartment with no one to help her, and the thought of being alone while recovering from a gunshot wound was terrifying. "Just today," she said. "Then I go home." "Just today," Adriano agreed, though something in his expression suggested he didn't quite mean it. "Now eat. You need your strength." The breakfast was incredible, some kind of Italian egg dish with herbs she couldn't identify and toast that was clearly homemade. "Did you make this?" Nora asked. "I cook," Adriano said with a small shrug. "My mother insisted all her children learn, said we'd never survive if we couldn't feed ourselves. She was from Palermo, very traditional." "Was?" "She died when I was 16, Adriano said. "Cancer, fast and brutal." He said it matter-of-factly, but Nora heard the old pain underneath. "I'm sorry," Nora said. "It was a long time ago." Adriano pulled up a chair beside the bed, his movements graceful for someone his size. "Tell me about yourself, Nora Hayes. What's a delivery driver doing risking her life for strangers?" "I wasn't risking anything on purpose," Nora said. "I was just working, and there's not much to tell. I'm from Idaho originally, small town you've never heard of. Came to Vegas 2 years ago, thinking I'd make it big, like everyone does." "And did you?" Nora laughed, bitter. "Not exactly. I worked in casinos for a while, cocktail waitress, because I'm pretty enough, and that's what they hire. But the customers, the managers, everyone wanted something from me that I wasn't willing to give. So I quit, started doing delivery instead. It's honest work. I make enough to pay rent and send money home to my family." "Family in Idaho?" Adriano asked, his attention focused on her in a way that was both flattering and unnerving. "My parents and my little sister Lily. She's 18, still in high school. My dad's sick, can't work much, so I help when I can." Nora took a sip of orange juice. "I called them last night from the clinic, told them I had a minor accident but I'm fine. Didn't want them to worry." "They don't know you were shot?" God, no. They'd freak out. Try to come here even though they can't afford it. Try to make me come home. I'm not going to burden them with that. Nora met his eyes. Which is why I need to be very careful about what I tell them about you. What do you think I am? Adriano asked quietly. I think you're exactly what I suspected last night. Someone in organized crime. Mafia, probably, given the Italian name and the restaurant, and the way people obey you without question. Nora's heart was pounding, but she kept her voice steady. Am I right? Adriano studied her for a long moment, then nodded once. Yes. I run the Marino family here in Las Vegas. We've been established here for 3 generations, came from Sicily in the 60s. I handle territory, protection, some smuggling, gambling operations. But I also own legitimate businesses, the restaurants, some real estate. It's complicated. That's one word for it, Nora said. And the people who shot at you. Russian family trying to move into my territory. The Kozlovs. They've been pushing for months, and last night was their way of making a statement. Adriano's jaw clenched. They failed to kill me, but they did hurt you. That's unforgivable. What are you going to do to them? What do you think? I think you're going to find them and kill them, Nora said, surprised by her own calm. She should be horrified, should be calling the police, should be running away from this man and his dangerous world. Instead, she just felt oddly resigned. And I think part of me doesn't care that you will, because they tried to kill you, and they shot me instead. You're very calm about this, Adriano observed. I'm probably in shock, Nora admitted. Or maybe working in Vegas casinos taught me that the world is darker than I wanted to believe. I'm not naive, Adriano. I know what you are. I just don't know what that means for me. It means you're under my protection now, Adriano said seriously. The Kozlovs saw you with me, saw you get shot outside my restaurant. They might come looking to finish the job, make sure there are no witnesses. I can't let that happen. Fear spiked through Nora. So I'm a target now? Because I was doing my job and got unlucky. I won't let them touch you, Adriano said, and there was steel in his voice. You have my word, Nora. Nothing will happen to you. I'll make sure of it. How? Nora demanded. You can't watch me every second. I have to work. I have to live my life. I can't just hide forever. You can stay here, Adriano said, in my penthouse, where I have security, where I can keep you safe. At least until I deal with the Kozlov problem permanently. That's insane, Nora said. I can't just move in with a stranger, especially not one who's a literal crime boss. You have a better idea? Adriano challenged. Because from where I'm sitting, your apartment with its cheap lock and ground floor window isn't exactly a fortress, and you can't afford private security on a delivery driver's salary. He was right, and Nora hated it. This is crazy. My entire life has gone insane in less than 24 hours. I know, Adriano said, his voice softening, and I'm sorry. You don't deserve any of this. But you're here now, in my world, whether either of us wanted it or not. So let me protect you. Let me make this right. Nora looked at him. This dangerous, beautiful man who was offering her safety at a price she didn't fully understand yet. If I stay, it's just until you handle the Russian problem. Then I go back to my life. Agreed? Agreed, Adriano said, though something in his eyes suggested he was already thinking several steps ahead. The first 3 days, Nora barely saw Adriano. He left early, came back late, and when he did return, he went straight to his room, and she'd hear the shower running for a long time. On the 4th morning, she woke early and found him in the kitchen making espresso, still wearing the clothes from the night before. Did you even sleep? Nora asked from the doorway. Adriano turned, and she noticed blood on his shirt collar. Not his blood, she was pretty sure. A few hours, he said. Coffee? Please. Nora moved into the kitchen carefully. Her shoulder was healing well, the pain now manageable with over-the-counter medication. You have blood on your shirt. Adriano glanced down, his expression unreadable. So I do. He poured her a cup of espresso, added cream and sugar the way she'd mentioned liking it days ago, and handed it to her. I need to shower. Make yourself at home. He disappeared down the hallway, and Nora heard the shower start again. She wandered to the windows, looking out at Las Vegas spread below, and tried to process her new reality. She was living in a mobster's penthouse, under his protection, while he went out and did God knows what to the people who'd tried to kill him. She should be horrified. Instead, she found herself worried about him. When Adriano emerged 30 minutes later, he was clean and wearing fresh clothes, dark jeans and a black Henley that hugged his broad shoulders. His hair was still damp, and Nora caught the scent of expensive cologne as he moved past her into the kitchen. Are you hurt? She asked. No, Adriano said, pulling ingredients from the refrigerator. The blood wasn't mine. Whose was it? Better if you don't know the details, Adriano said, cracking eggs into a bowl. But the Kozlov problem is being handled. You'll be safe soon. And what then? Nora asked. I just go back to delivering food and pretend none of this happened? Adriano's hand stilled on the whisk. If that's what you want. I don't know what I want, Nora admitted. A week ago, my biggest problem was making rent. Now I'm living with a mafia boss and watching him come home covered in blood. My entire world has shifted. I'm sorry for that, Adriano said quietly. If I could change what happened, give you back your normal life, I would. Would you? Nora challenged. Because I think part of you is glad I'm here. Adriano turned to face her fully, and the intensity in his green eyes made her breath catch. You're right. I should feel guilty about that. Should wish you'd never been in front of my restaurant that night. But I don't. Because having you here, seeing you every morning, knowing you're safe, it's become the best part of my day. And that's selfish as hell. But it's true. The air between them felt suddenly charged. Nora's heart was pounding, her mouth dry. Adriano, I'm not going to do anything about it, Adriano interrupted. You're here because you need protection, not because I want to take advantage of the situation. I won't cross that line. But I needed you to know how I feel. Needed to be honest. What if I want you to cross that line? Nora asked, the words out before she could stop them. Adriano's jaw clenched. You're vulnerable right now. You've been traumatized. You're in an unfamiliar situation. You might be feeling grateful or confused or a dozen other things that aren't real. I won't take advantage of that. Stop telling me what I feel, Nora said, moving closer. I know the difference between gratitude and attraction, Adriano, and what I feel when I look at you isn't gratitude. Nora, don't. Why did you notice my eyes? Nora asked. Before I got shot, before any of this, you said you noticed my eyes. Why? Adriano looked like he was at war with himself. Because you were the most beautiful thing I'd seen in years, he said roughly. Because something in me recognized something in you. Because in that split second before everything went to hell, I thought you looked like you didn't belong in this city, like you were too good for it. I'm not too good for anything, Nora said. I'm just a girl from Idaho who made bad choices and ended up in worse situations. But I'm here now, with you. And I'm tired of pretending I don't feel something when you look at me like that. Like what? Like you want to kiss me, but won't let yourself. Adriano closed his eyes. You don't know what you're asking for. Then tell me, Nora said, close enough now that she could feel the heat radiating from his body. Tell me what I'm asking for. Adriano's eyes opened, and they were dark with want. You're asking for a man who lives in violence, who comes home with blood on his hands, who has enemies that would hurt you to get to me, You're asking for someone who's possessive and protective to the point of obsession. You're asking for someone who, if you let him in, will never let you go. That's what you're asking for, Nora. So think carefully before you push this. Nora reached up with her good arm and cupped his jaw, feeling the scratch of stubble against her palm. I've thought about nothing else for 4 days, she said, and I'm still asking. Adriano made a sound low in his throat and kissed her. It was not gentle. It was desperate and consuming, his hands coming up to frame her face as he angled her head, deepening the kiss immediately. Nora gasped against his mouth, and he took advantage, his tongue sliding against hers in a way that made heat pool low in her belly. She pressed closer, mindful of her injured shoulder, but needing to feel him against her. Adriano's hands moved to her waist, pulling her flush against his body, and she could feel the evidence of his want pressing against her hip. When they finally broke apart, both breathing hard, Adriano rested his forehead against hers. This is a bad idea, he murmured. Probably, Nora agreed. I meant what I said. If we do this, I don't do casual. You'll be mine, Nora. Completely. Then I guess I better get used to it, Nora said, and kissed him again. Over the next month, Nora's life transformed in ways she never could have imagined. She moved fully into Adriano's penthouse, her tiny studio apartment packed up by his men without her ever having to go back. He'd offered to pay her rent so she could keep it, but she'd refused. If she was doing this, she was doing it completely. Adriano continued his work, but now he made time for her. Dinners together every night when he was in town, cooked by him in his spectacular kitchen. Mornings where he brought her coffee in bed and they'd talk about everything and nothing. Evenings where he'd teach her Italian phrases and she'd laugh at his patience when she butchered the pronunciation. And the chemistry between them only intensified. Adriano made love like he did everything else, with complete focus and intensity. He learned every inch of her body, what made her gasp, what made her moan, what made her shatter in his arms. And Nora discovered that she loved the way he looked at her afterward, like she was something precious he couldn't quite believe he got to keep. Their first real date was 5 weeks after the shooting. Adriano closed Stella Rossa for the night and cooked for her himself, a multi-course Italian feast that showcased his skills. They sat in a private corner booth, the same one where he'd first tried to stop her bleeding, and the symbolism wasn't lost on either of them. This is where it started, Nora said, looking around the empty restaurant. This is where you saved my life, Adriano corrected. Where you turned around at exactly the right moment and changed everything. Do you ever wonder what would have happened if I hadn't? Nora asked. If I'd walked straight into the restaurant and you'd been the one shot? Every day, Adriano admitted. And every day I'm grateful you turned around, even though you got hurt. Is that selfish? Maybe, Nora said. But I'm grateful too. Because as insane as it sounds, getting shot led me to you. To this, to the happiest I've been in years. Adriano reached across the table and took her hand. I need to tell you something, he said seriously. The Kozlov situation is resolved. Their captain who ordered the hit is dead. The rest of their organization has backed off from my territory. You're safe now, Nora. You can go back to your life if you want. Nora's heart clenched. Is that what you want? For me to leave? God, no, Adriano said roughly. But I promised you could leave when it was safe. I'm keeping that promise. If you want to go back to your apartment, back to doing deliveries, back to your old life, I'll let you. I won't stop you. But I'm hoping you'll stay, Adriano said. Not because you have to, not because you're afraid or feel obligated, but because you want to. Because you want this, us, as much as I do. Nora squeezed his hand. I'm not going anywhere, she said. I'm exactly where I want to be. Relief flooded Adriano's expression. You're sure? Because my life is complicated, Nora. It's dangerous. There will always be threats, always be risks. I can protect you, but I can't guarantee you'll always be completely safe." "Nothing in life is completely safe," Nora said. "And I'd rather take risks with you than be safe and alone." Adriano stood and pulled her up with him, crushing her against his chest and kissing her deeply. "Ti amo," he murmured against her lips. "I love you, Nora Hayes. I've loved you since you looked up at me with those ocean eyes while bleeding on the pavement and asked what happened." Tears pricked Nora's eyes. "I love you too," she whispered. "My dangerous, protective, impossible Sicilian mobster. I love you so much." Their second date was 2 weeks later, a drive out to Lake Mead where Adriano had arranged a private dinner on a rented yacht. They ate fresh seafood and drank wine as the sun set over the water, and Nora had never felt more at peace. "Tell me about your brother," she said, as they sat on the deck afterward, her back against his chest. She'd learned bits and pieces over the weeks, but she wanted to know more. Adriano was quiet for a long moment, his arms tightening around her waist. "His name was Leo," he finally said. "He was my little brother, 7 years younger than me. Smart, funny, kind in a way I never was. He wanted to be a teacher, can you believe that? The son of a mafia boss, wanting to teach kids." "What happened to him?" Nora asked gently. 7 years ago, there was a rival family making moves against us. They planted a bomb in my car, timed to go off when I started the engine. But that morning, Leo borrowed my car to run to the bakery for bread. Mama's birthday. He wanted to get her favorite. He turned the key and... Adriano's voice cracked. "It was meant for me. The bomb, the death, all of it. But he died instead." "Oh, Adriano," Nora breathed, turning in his arms to face him. "I'm so sorry." "I found him," Adriano continued, his eyes distant. "Or what was left of him. I held my baby brother's body, and I swore I'd never let someone I loved be hurt because of me again. That's why I'm so protective, Nora. Why I can't stand the thought of you being in danger. Because I've already lost someone who took a hit meant for me." "Is that why you reacted so strongly when I got shot?" Nora asked. "Because it reminded you of Leo?" "Partly," Adriano admitted. "But also because in that moment, watching you fall, I realized you'd already become important to me, just from seeing you for 30 seconds before the shooting. And the thought of losing you before I even got to know you was unbearable." Nora kissed him softly. "I'm here. I'm alive. And I'm not going anywhere." "Promise me," Adriano said fiercely. "Promise me you'll be careful, that you'll let me protect you, that you won't take unnecessary risks." "I promise," Nora said. "As long as you promise the same. Because you're important to me too, Adriano Marino. You don't get to die on me." "Deal," Adriano said, and sealed it with a kiss. 2 months after the shooting, Nora's world shifted again, but this time in a way that brought terror instead of joy. She'd been at the penthouse alone, working on her laptop, when Adriano burst through the door with murder in his eyes. "Where's your phone?" he demanded. "What? Why? Give me your phone, Nora. Now." She handed it over, confused and frightened by the barely controlled rage in his expression. Adriano pulled up her recent calls, scrolled through, and went pale. "When did you last talk to your sister?" he asked, his voice deadly calm. "This morning, why? Adriano, what's wrong?" He turned the phone toward her, showing a text message she hadn't seen yet. It was from an unknown number, and the words made her blood run cold. "We have the little sister. Trade her life for your woman's. Midnight tonight at the old warehouse on Henderson. Come alone or she dies." "No," Nora whispered. "No, no, no. Lily? They have Lily?" "The Kozlovs," Adriano said grimly. They must have found out about your family, tracked them to Idaho, took your sister to get to you, to get to me. Oh my God! Nora was shaking, panic clawing at her throat. They have my baby sister. She's only 18. She's just a kid. She hasn't done anything wrong. I know, Adriano said, pulling her against his chest. I know, Bella, but listen to me. We're going to get her back. I promise you. I will bring Lily home safe. How? Nora demanded. They want me. They want to trade her for me. Which we're not doing, Adriano said flatly. I'm not trading your life for hers. We'll find another way. She's my sister, Nora shouted. I'm not letting her die because of me. And I'm not letting you walk into a death trap, Adriano said, his hands gripping her shoulders. Nora, look at me. I will get your sister back. I will make the Kozlovs pay for taking her. But I need you to trust me. Can you do that? Nora wanted to argue, wanted to insist she'd trade herself in a heartbeat. But she looked at Adriano's face, saw the determination and deadly promise there, and nodded. Okay, she whispered. Okay. But please, Adriano, please bring her home. She's all I have. I will, Adriano vowed. I swear on my brother's grave, I will bring Lily home to you. He left 30 minutes later with 6 of his best men, armed and dangerous. Nora paced the penthouse like a caged animal, unable to sit still, unable to think about anything except her sister scared and alone with men who wanted to hurt her. The hours crawled by. Midnight came and went with no word. 1 a.m., 2, 3. Nora was on the verge of losing her mind when finally, the penthouse door opened. Adriano walked in, and he was carrying a girl. Lily! Nora screamed, rushing forward. Her sister was conscious but clearly traumatized, shaking and pale. Adriano set her carefully on the couch, and Nora immediately wrapped her arms around her, sobbing. You're okay. You're safe. I'm so sorry. I'm so sorry, Nora babbled, checking Lily over for injuries. She had some bruises, rope burns on her wrists, but was otherwise physically unharmed. Nora, Lily whispered, clinging to her. I was so scared. They took me from work, said they'd kill me if I didn't go with them. I didn't know what to do. Shh, it's okay now. You're safe. You're here with me. Lily pulled back enough to look at Adriano, who stood nearby, his clothes spattered with blood that definitely wasn't his. He saved me, she said, him and his men. They came in like something out of a movie, and he told me he was there for me, that Nora sent him. I did, Nora said, looking at Adriano with so much love and gratitude she thought her heart might burst. He promised me he'd bring you home, and he kept his promise. Who is he? Lily asked. Nora, what's going on? Why did those men take me? What's happening? It's complicated, Nora said. But the short version is that Adriano saved my life, and I fell in love with him. And some very bad people tried to use you to hurt us. But they're not going to hurt anyone anymore. They're dead, Adriano said flatly. Every Kozlov who was in that warehouse, everyone who knew about this plan, everyone who thought they could touch your family. They're gone, and they won't threaten you again. Lily stared at him with wide eyes. You killed them? Yes. Because they took me? Because they threatened someone I love by hurting someone she loves, Adriano said. That's unforgivable in my world. Lily looked between them, processing. You're mafia, aren't you? Like in the movies. Yes, Adriano said, not sugarcoating it. And you're okay with this? Lily asked Nora. With him being a criminal? He's more than that, Nora said. He's complicated and dangerous, and yes, he does terrible things. But he's also kind and protective, and he loves me in a way I've never been loved before. And he just saved your life without asking for anything in return. So yes, I'm okay with it. I'm more than okay with it. Lily looked at Adriano for a long moment. Thank you, she finally said, for saving me. Even though I don't really understand what's happening, thank you. You're Nora's sister, Adriano said simply. That means you're under my protection now. Always. They set Lily up in the second guest room that night, made sure she was comfortable and safe. Nora stayed with her until she fell asleep, then returned to her own room where Adriano was waiting. Thank you, Nora said, launching herself into his arms. Thank you, thank you, thank you. You kept your promise. You brought her home. I told you I would, Adriano said, holding her tight. I won't let anyone hurt the people you love, Nora. Not ever. I love you so much, Nora said, tears streaming down her face. I love you more than I thought possible. I love you too, Bella, Adriano said. Ti amo più della mia vita. I love you more than my life. They made love that night with desperate intensity, reaffirming that they were both alive, both safe, both together. And afterward, wrapped in Adriano's arms, Nora thought about how much had changed in just 3 months. She'd been shot, fallen in love with a mobster, nearly lost her sister, and come out the other side stronger than ever. 6 months after the shooting, Adriano took Nora back to Stella Rosa. The restaurant was closed again, just the two of them, and Nora felt nervous, though she didn't know why. Where are we going? She asked, as he led her not inside but around to the side entrance where she'd first been shot. Right here, Adriano said, stopping in the exact spot where she'd turned around that October night. This is where everything started. Where you saved my life without knowing it. Where I saw you, and something in me recognized that you were going to change everything. Adriano, let me finish, he said, and lowered himself to one knee. Nora's breath caught. He pulled out a small velvet box and opened it, revealing a ring that made her gasp. A sapphire, deep blue like the ocean, surrounded by diamonds. I'm not an easy man to love, Adriano said. I come with danger and violence and a world that most people would run from. But you didn't run, Nora. You stayed. You saw all of me, the good and the terrible, and you loved me anyway. You make me want to be better, to build something beyond just power and control. You make me believe in second chances. His green eyes were bright with emotion. 6 months ago, you turned around at exactly the right moment and saved my life. Now I'm asking you to turn toward me permanently. Marry me, Nora Hayes. Be my wife. Let me spend the rest of my life protecting you and loving you, and being grateful every single day that you didn't walk straight into that restaurant. Nora was crying, her hands shaking as she covered her mouth. Yes, she sobbed. Yes, of course, yes. I love you so much, Adriano. I want to marry you. I want all of it. Adriano slipped the ring onto her finger and stood, pulling her into his arms and kissing her deeply. Say, Mia, he murmured. You're mine now. Officially. Forever. Forever, Nora agreed. They were married 3 months later on a private beach in Sicily, with Adriano's extended family and Nora's small family all in attendance. Lily served as maid of honor, her initial shock about Adriano's world having evolved into genuine affection for the man who'd saved her life. Nora's parents were wary at first, but seeing how Adriano looked at their daughter, how he treated her like she was everything, won them over. The ceremony was in Italian and English, and when Adriano recited his vows, Nora cried through the whole thing. You walked into my life covered in blood and pain, Adriano said, and you brought light into darkness. You taught me that love could exist in my world, that I could be more than just a boss, a killer, a survivor. You made me want to live again, not just exist. I promise to protect you, to cherish you, to love you with everything I am for every day I'm lucky enough to have you. Ti amo, Mia moglie. Ti amo per sempre. And when the officiant pronounced them married, Adriano kissed his wife like she was his entire world. Because she was. 1 year after their wedding, Nora stood in the kitchen of their penthouse making coffee when Adriano came up behind her and wrapped his arms around her waist, his hands settling protectively over her growing belly. "How are my girls this morning?" he murmured, pressing a kiss to her neck. "Good," Nora said, leaning back against his chest. "She kicked a lot last night." "I felt," Adriano said, his hands gentle on her stomach. "Strong like her mother." They were having a daughter, due in 3 months. They'd already decided to name her Leona, after Adriano's brother, a way of honoring what was lost while celebrating what they'd found. Lily had stayed in Las Vegas, enrolled in university with Adriano paying her tuition. She came for dinner twice a week and had become the little sister Adriano never got to protect. Nora's parents visited monthly, their initial fear of Adriano's world tempered by seeing their daughter happy and safe. And Nora no longer did deliveries. Instead, she helped Adriano run his legitimate businesses, bringing her eye for detail and natural organizational skills to his restaurants and properties. She'd found purpose in his world, found a way to be part of it without compromising who she was. "Do you ever regret it?" Adriano asked suddenly. "That night? Getting shot? Your whole life changing?" "Never," Nora said without hesitation. "Not for a single second." "Do you regret smoking that cigarette? Being outside at that exact moment?" "Never," Adriano echoed. "That bullet was meant to end my life, but instead it brought me you. Best trade I ever made." Nora turned in his arms to face him. "I love you, Adriano Marino, my dangerous, protective, impossible husband. Thank you for saving me that night." "You saved me first, Bella," Adriano said, cupping her face. "The moment you turned around, you saved my life. Everything good that's happened since started with you." They stood there in their kitchen, the Las Vegas morning sun streaming through the windows, a baby growing between them, and remembered that terrible October night. The night a bullet meant for death brought life instead. The night a delivery driver and a mobster's paths crossed in the worst and best way possible. Because sometimes salvation comes in the form of a bullet you didn't mean to take. Sometimes love grows from blood and violence. Sometimes the worst moment of your life is actually the beginning of everything good. "Who shot you?" Adriano had demanded that night, ready to burn the world down for her answer. "The Kozlovs," she could have said. But the real answer was deeper. Fate shot her. Destiny. Whatever force in the universe decided she needed to turn around at exactly that moment and change both their lives forever. And she'd do it again in a heartbeat.